Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The Sensex and the Nifty down 2% this week despite ending in the green on Friday. This is the biggest weekly fall in 2 months. Financials dragged the markets with the Nifty Bank Index posting the biggest weekly fall in 4 months. A CNBC-TV18 analysis of Q4 earnings among top 200 listed companies throws up a mixed bag. Out of the 104 companies to have released their numbers so far, 51 have seen EPS downgrades and 42 have seen EPS upgrades. Supreme Court grants interim bail to Delhi's Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal in the liquor excise policy case till the 1st of June. He will be allowed to campaign for the elections, but Kejriwal will not be allowed to discharge his duties as Chief Minister, and he cannot interact with any person involved in the case. Tata Motors reports a mixed bag in Q4. Revenue meets estimates, but margins miss the mark. The operational performance of Jaguar Land Rover also below estimates. Cipla's Q4 profit and revenue meet estimates. Margins disappoint. CEO Umang Vohra says the decline in margins is due to seasonality. We will fight out with our fingernails, says Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu after US President Joe Biden threatens to stop supply of weapons over the attacks on Rafah, but also says he hopes Israel and the US can overcome their differences. More than 100,000 Palestinians have fled Rafah since Israel intensified attacks on the city from Monday. After finding common ground with the agitating cabin crew, Air India Express management expects full normalcy in operations by Sunday. Sources say the revenue loss is expected to be about 30 crore rupees, with about 300 flights being cancelled so far. There is no threat to the BJP government in Haryana, claims Chief Minister Nayab Singh Saini. Says he's confident of winning the trust vote if the need arises. In an exclusive interview, the Congress Party and Dushyant Chautala's JJP claim the BJP government is in a minority after 3 independent MLAs withdrew their support. Luxury homes account for 21% of all home sales compared to just 7% 5 years ago. This as per an ANAROC report, which provides data on the first 3 months of 2024. On the other hand, affordable housing contributes to 20% of all home sales, a sharp drop from the 37% contributing that we've seen in the last 5 years. Gold rush on the occasion of Akshaya Tritiya. Even as prices remain at record levels, the price of 10 grams of gold shoots past the 73,000 rupees. Jewellery stocks shine in trade today. Well, let's start with the market action. The Sensex and the Nifty did manage to close in the green for the day. Financial stocks, though, continue to remain under pressure. Mid-caps did outperform the blue chips. The Nifty finally closing about 0.5% higher. The Sensex 260 points higher. The Nifty Bank, as we pointed out, closing in the red. The mid-cap index was higher by about 1%. But for the week, the Sensex and the Nifty have both lost 2%. And this is the biggest weekly loss that we've seen in 2 months. So that's the picture coming in for the week. And if you take a look at the Nifty Bank has dropped almost 3.5% for the week, which has seen sharper cuts, posting the biggest drop in the last 4 months. Surabhi standing by now to wrap up the week that was on the Lal Street. Surabhi.
Well, finally, you can sense that you're in the midst of election season, full throttle, even on the Lal Street. And the reason why I say that is that there was a fair amount of volatility, some nerves and some jitters that resulted in a consolidation week with a negative bias. Actually, Friday offered some respite because we had a recovery about 0.5% on the Nifty and about 1% or so on the mid-cap index, which is why the final tally for the week is not looking that bad. But the fact is that India has underperformed global markets. And if we look at the weekly performance, then the Nifty is down about 2%. The Bank Nifty is down about 3%. Mid-cap index, again, losing about 2.7, 2.8%. But the small-cap universe, the broader market facing a lot of pressure this week. Small-cap index down 5%, giving us a sense of how a lot of profit-taking was very evident, especially in the broader market. Now, there's been a marked rise in volatility this week as well. It's pretty historic, actually, because for the week as a whole, India VIX has put on 26% as a lot of this uncertainty was playing out and, stock prices were drifting lower. Earnings have been a very mixed picture this time around. There are hits and there are misses. If I talk about the misses, some big stocks there. L&T because of its subpar margin guidance. Titan because it's talking about a lot of competitive intensity in its playing arena. Asian Paints missing estimates as well. But then you have hits. Not all is bad. BPCL was looking very smart on Friday. Earlier in the week, the FMCG boys really did a fantastic surprise. Britannia, Marico, even some of the other names like Godrej, fantastic numbers, and the street really saluted these stocks at the start of the week. And then there was Polycab, which was a very pleasant, positive surprise on Friday once again. The other hallmark of the week is RBI action constantly leading to wild swings in a lot of stocks. So this week, it was all about gold financiers. Thursday, we saw Manappuram and Muthoot, go slam dunk lower because of the strict warning on cash disbursements when it comes to gold loans. But on Friday, there was a recovery because the companies maintained that their business is not going to be hit. Likewise, proposed new norms on project financing led to a lot of volatility on stocks like PFC and REC, though, of course, later some recovery because the companies came out with their clarifications as well. Now, earnings season is in its last leg, and it's been a mixed one. That's the verdict. Global markets aren't giving us too many cues, not too many events lined up, really. So as the new week dawns, it's likely to remain all about politics and what's happening with the electoral buzz around that will continue to dominate the action on the street.
All right, so many thanks for joining us. That was the market action. But on to earnings corner. Tata Motors has just reported a mixed set of Q4 numbers. Sudarshan standing by to take us through the fine print. Sud, how does Tata Motors look this quarter?
So, well, the numbers look mixed, and the reason I say mixed because on revenue front, it's almost in line, but on EBITDA and margin front, both JLR and Tata Motors have missed estimates. Now, talking about the numbers, for Tata Motors consolidated numbers, revenue has come in at rupees 1.20 lakh crore, almost at the same level that our poll was estimating. EBITDA is at rupees 17,035 crore against our poll of rupees 17,712 crore, and margin has come in at 14.2% against our poll of 14.7%. On the bottom line, or say profit, company is showing 17,407 crore, but it's aided by tax credit, which is rupees 8,159 crore. Now coming to JLR numbers, revenue is up 10.7% at 7,860 million pounds against 7,102 million pounds against the same quarter last year. EBITDA margin has come in at 16.3% versus 14.8%, and EBITDA is up 22% year on year. Commentary, though, is positive. Company says delivered highest ever revenue, profits and free cash flows in FY24, and India business is now debt-free, and company is on track to become net automotive debt-free on a consolidated basis in FY25. Lastly, talking about the valuation, FY26 P is 13x, and company is now the cheapest stock in the auto pack. So overall, it's a mixed set of earnings by Tata Motors.
All right, Sudarshan, many thanks for joining us. That's Tata Motors for you. And Cipla also reporting a mixed set of numbers for Q4. Net profit ahead of street estimates, while revenue and margins missed the mark. On an annual basis, net profit up 79% to 939 crores, while revenue up 7.4% to 6,163 crores. The management says that its sales in the US have crossed the $900 million mark in FY24, adding that margins declined in the quarter largely due to seasonality. That's Cipla for you, and we're not done with earnings just yet. Bank of Baroda reporting a steady set of numbers in the fourth quarter. Net profit and net interest income beating street estimates. The bank's asset quality has improved on a sequential basis, and the loan growth has risen significantly, 13% in Q4 from 4% in the quarter previously. Well, we're more than halfway through this Q4 earnings season. A CNBC-TV18 analysis of top 200 listed companies has thrown up a mixed bag. Prashant is standing by with the earnings report card. More downgrades than upgrades, Prashant?
Well, so far, yes, Shireen, absolutely. So what we're trying to basically answer the question we're trying to answer is, what are fourth quarter earnings doing to full year FY25 earnings? And the reason that question is important is because markets trade on forward basis, right? I mean, based on what forward earnings estimates are. Actually, some are looking at FY26, but that's too far out. So what we're doing is we're looking at what are the changes in the last 1 month. Basically 1 month, because we are taking a point before the earnings season started till now, and over the last 1 month as the earnings season has progressed, how have the top 200 companies, which are the most liquid companies, most traded, well-owned companies, what are earnings looking like for them? So this is actually the picture. 51 companies, actually 104 companies have reported, first of all, so a little over 50% of the companies have reported. Out of these, 51 companies actually have seen earnings being downgraded. Consensus, and these are consensus Bloomberg estimates, and for 42 companies, EPS for FY25 actually has been upped, so more down than up right now. Now, let me just start with the good news, which is, of course, where earnings estimates have been brought up. And what I've tried to do is basically bunch companies together in a certain segment, adjacent sectors, but broadly, in the same category, except, of course, P&B, because that is so sort of, it's a big one, right? 70% upgrade to FY25 estimates in the last 1 month is what P&B has seen. Vedanta and some of these sort of other companies like in the material space, Vedanta has seen a 26% upgrade to full year estimates. Coal India 8%. Tata Power has seen a 5.4% upgrade. The other companies are Trent. This is largely in the sort of consumer space, consumption space. Trent has seen an 11% upgrade. Lodha Macrotech has seen a 7%, and Bajaj Auto has seen a nearly 6% upgrade. Oracle Financial Services 9% upgrade, and you've got Indus Tower, of course. Telecom as a sector has come back. Vodafone, etc. Now hopefully viable. 8% upgrade there for Indus Tower's full year estimates. Now financials to end this list with. HDFC Bank 7%, Indian Bank 6.5%, and you have HDFC Mutual Fund AMC, which has seen a 6% upside as well. I'm stopping and cutting off at that 6-5% kind of a mark and not going beyond, but there are 41 companies which have actually seen upgrades, but these are the meaningful ones. Now to the downgrades here, and Piramal tops the list. Numbers actually came out earlier this week. 21% downgrade to full year estimates. ICICI Pru has seen a 14% downgrade to estimates. There is MRF, Dalmia Bharat, Tata Chemicals, all over 10% downgrade to estimates. There is the IT pack, right? I mean, IT has had it bad, even though estimates were lower, but I mean, there have been misses even on that. And Tech Mahindra, Coforge, L&T Technologies, anywhere between 6 and 8% downside is what we've seen there. To wrap it up, Godrej Properties, 6% downside. And it's interesting, right? Lodha was in the upgrade list with a decent upgrade, but Godrej Properties is seeing a 6% downgrade to full year estimates. And Laurus Laboratories, here, of course, there have been misses for a couple of years now, and another 5% downgrade is what we have seen. So, as I said, more than 50% earnings reported out of the NSE 200 basket, and so far it's a mixed bag with more companies seeing downgrades than upgrades. Back to you, Shireen.
Prashant, many thanks for joining us. That's the halfway mark as far as earnings are concerned, but we will, of course, continue to track this space. The big political story this evening, the Supreme Court has granted interim bail to Delhi's Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. He will be out till the 1st of June. This is in connection with the money laundering case registered against him by the Enforcement Directorate linked to the Delhi excise policy matter. He will be allowed to campaign for the elections, but Arvind Kejriwal will not be allowed to discharge his duties as the Chief Minister of Delhi, and he cannot interact with any persons involved in the case. Aam Aadmi Party leaders and opposition leaders have welcomed the court's order. Take a look.
जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट का फैसला आया है, इस फैसले से सिर्फ अरविंद केजरीवाल जी को अंतरिम जमानत नहीं मिली, इस फैसले से सत्य की विजय हुई है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट का धन्यवाद करना चाहती हूं, सामने आकर लोकतंत्र को बचाने के लिए, और मैं इस देश के लोगों से अपील करना चाहती हूं कि इस देश को, अपने लोकतंत्र को और अपने संविधान को बचाने के लिए ये आखिरी मौका है। इसलिए हम सब की जिम्मेदारी है कि हम सबको मिलकर अपनी वोट की ताकत से इस तानाशाही को खत्म करना है।
We welcome the intervention by the Honorable Supreme Court in granting the bail to Mr. Arvind Kejriwal. We also hope that the Prime Minister gets enough time after 4th of June, when he becomes the former Prime Minister of India, to introspect sitting in Sabarmati Ashram at the kind of politics he has indulged into.
अरविंद केजरीवाल जी शराब घोटाले में लिप्त हैं। आज मानयोग सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजमेंट के बाद क्लियर हो गया, उनको 1 तारीख के लिए केवल चुनाव के लिए कोर्ट ने अलाउ किया है, और 1 तारीख के बाद उनको दोबारा जेल जाना होगा। अरविंद केजरीवाल और आम आदमी पार्टी कहती थी वो ईमानदार हैं, उन्होंने कोई करप्शन नहीं की, कोई बेईमानी नहीं की, तो फिर उनको 1 तारीख को जेल क्यों जाना होगा?
Well, Ashmit Kumar joins us now with more on the Supreme Court's verdict. Ashmit, the order copy now out. Take us to the fine print, the rationale given by the court as to why it has decided to grant interim bail to Arvind Kejriwal, even though the government, the Enforcement Directorate, tried till the last moment to ensure that bail was not granted.
Well, the ED did fight tooth and nail, batting aggressively against grant of interim bail. The Apex Court, however, rejecting that plea that had been made by the Enforcement Directorate. Now, what are the rationale that the Apex Court has cited? We've gone through the Supreme Court order. It's an 8-page order. The Supreme Court firstly says that one cannot lose sight of the fact that the elections are currently underway, that the Lok Sabha elections is at the very heart of the democracy. The term that the Apex Court uses is that these elections is the living force, quote-unquote, behind a democracy, that there are as many as about 600 to 700 million people who will be exercising their right to franchise, and that is something that the Apex Court cannot lose sight of. Further, the Apex Court goes on to say that it rejects the contention of the Enforcement Directorate that by grant of interim bail, some kind of differentiation has been created between the Aam Aadmi, the common man, or elected leaders. In fact, what the Supreme Court says is that we need to look at the peculiar circumstances, the facts of this particular case. Now, speaking of this particular case, what the Supreme Court says is interesting on the bona fides of Arvind Kejriwal. Number one, the Supreme Court says that grant of interim bail is not really an exceptional remedy as is being made out to be. Second, the Supreme Court says that Arvind Kejriwal is facing serious accusations, but he's not an accused, that the investigation has been underway since August of 2022, that as far as Arvind Kejriwal is concerned, he was arrested just in the month of March, going on to say that going forward there are some conditions that have been cast on him. The conditions essentially are that he will not be visiting his office, he will not be signing any files, he will not be meeting any witnesses.
Yeah. Yeah, Ashmit, just hang in there. We're now joined by Delhi's Health Minister Saurabh Bhardwaj. Mr. Bhardwaj, many thanks for joining us. The Supreme Court granting interim bail to Delhi Chief Minister and your party leader Arvind Kejriwal. Any clarity on the release and whether we're likely to see the release this evening itself?
Yes, I think the release order or the Supreme Court's order has reached Tihar, what I know from the sources, and I think he'll be released today only, because in the court only our lawyers did say that if you could directly give orders to the Tihar jail administration, it will be easier. Otherwise, if it goes through the trial court, sometimes it takes 2 to 3 days, and the time is crucial because we have 21 days remaining for campaign. And I think the court did accept our request, and the order was sent directly to the Tihar jail administration, and we hope that he'll be released very soon.
Okay, so the expectation is that the release could happen this evening itself. Saurabh Bhardwaj saying that the order has been sent to the Tihar jail. Mr. Bhardwaj, I can hear the celebrations behind you. The dholaks are very audible here in our TV studios as well. So I would imagine that there is welcome relief in the camps of the Aam Aadmi Party. But as you pointed out, 21 days now, it's the last lap before Delhi votes. What will the strategy be from here on now that Mr. Kejriwal is out?
I think the news of Arvind Kejriwal coming out of the jail, in spite of all the legal strategies of the central government, in spite of their top lawyers fighting tooth and nail against his release, this news will give a kind of impetus to the campaign of India Alliance. It's not just Aam Aadmi Party. I think it is a big boost for India Alliance that he's coming out. The kind of communicator he is, the kind of strategist and a planner he is. I think BJP did estimate what will happen if Arvind Kejriwal comes out of the jail, especially when the elections of the country are in a state when there is no wave in this election. The central government has lost its sheen. The central government is forced to basically start new narratives almost daily. Sometimes they talk about Pakistan, sometimes they talk about Muslims, sometimes they talk about population, sometimes they talk about Ambani, Adani. So I think they are basically clueless because nothing is getting them votes, and they are losing this election. It is slowly getting out of their hand, and when Arvind Kejriwal comes out of jail, I think the kind of narrative he'll create in the country will be a game changer for India Alliance.
But Mr. Bhardwaj, you know, the line that the Aam Aadmi Party had taken since the time that Mr. Kejriwal was put behind bars was that every vote that you deliver will be a vote in favor of Arvind Kejriwal, almost sort of a sympathy vote that the Aam Aadmi Party was seeking on account of the arrest of Mr. Kejriwal. Now that Mr. Kejriwal is out, what will be the cornerstone of your political promise to the voter? What will be the narrative that you take to the voters?
I think that will be something which will be decided by the party leaders when they sit together. But I think it's still jail ka jawab, because our leaders are still in jail. Arvind Kejriwal ji was in jail on frivolous grounds. Mr. Sisodia is still in jail. Mr. Sanjay Singh was in jail for 6 months. So the narrative is more or less saying that they are putting anybody who speaks against them into the jail on frivolous grounds. So I think this is not just narrative of Aam Aadmi Party. This is the narrative across the country, that this is what BJP central government is doing.
Mr. Bharadwaj, very quickly, you said that this is going to be a big gain.
Very sorry.
Last question. You said that this is going to be...
I have to go.
Okay. All right, Mr. Bharadwaj, appreciate you joining us. Saurabh Bharadwaj there of the Aam Aadmi Party. Arvind Kejriwal expected to be released later this evening. That's the expectation. Of course, one will have to wait to see how quickly Tihar jail will process the formalities required. Well, that's the big political story. We will head into a break, but up next we will fight with our fingernails, says Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu after US President Joe Biden threatens to stop weapon supply. More details when we return. International news. Israel continues to pound Gaza as it steps up its offensive in Rafah. Reports say that there have been heavy clashes between Palestinian armed groups and Israel's military in the eastern part of the city. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says they will fight with their fingernails. This after US President Joe Biden threatened to stop the supply of weapons over the attacks on Rafah. However, he's hopeful that Israel and the US can overcome their differences. Meanwhile, Israeli and Hamas negotiations delegations have left Cairo after inconclusive peace talks. Reports have said that Israel has expressed its reservations about the proposed captive release deal and has deemed this round of negotiations over. Hamas has responded, saying the ball is now completely in the hands of Israel.
Today we are much stronger. We are determined and we are united in order to defeat our enemies and those who want to destroy us. If we need to stand alone, we will stand alone. I have said that, if necessary, we will fight with our fingernails.
Back home, Air India Express is likely to see normalcy return to its operations by Sunday. A senior official has told CNBC-TV18 the airline could be staring at a revenue loss of 30 crore rupees. That's on account of the large-scale flight cancellations that took place. The official said Air India Express operates about 230 flights every day, and the flights cancelled were a mix of domestic and international with 85% load factor. Adding that about 250 of the cabin crew had reported sick, of which around 60 have resumed duty and the rest are rejoining gradually as they produce fitness certificates. That's the latest on Air India. And before we wrap, the gold rush is on the occasion of Akshaya Tritiya, even as prices remain at record levels. The price of 10 grams of gold has shot past 73,000 rupees. The yellow metal has been gaining consistently for the last few months, and just this week prices are up 2%. Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. The news will continue here on CNBC-TV18. Do stay tuned. We're back in a moment with more.